Hey, Sean here. You know me from the quick daily momentum shifts, those 2 to 3 minute bursts of motivation that get your day moving. But I want to let you know about something I'm adding, and it's a little different. A few longer episodes where I dive deeper into topics that I think deserve more than just a few minutes. These longer chats aren't replacing the quick hits you know and love. Those are staying right where they are. Think of these as bonus rounds. Deeper dives into health, mindset, life, and whatever else I'm wrestling with that I think might help you. So stick around and let's make something happen. So lately I've been thinking a lot about how the choices we make every day add up, especially with health stuff. Now, I'm 51, and you know how people say that once you hit 50, that check engine light comes on? Well, mine was flickering a bit. And honestly, it was kind of concerning me. And you could say that's when I decided to get intentional. I started experimenting with what I eat, and I landed on this thing that I call a modified carnivore lifestyle. At first, it was just a test. See if cutting out most carbs and focusing on meat and fat could help with my energy and blood pressure. What changed? A lot. My blood pressure dropped, my energy came back, and I stopped feeling that foggy, sluggish heaviness. And I've also learned that salt isn't the enemy. In fact, my body started needing more of it, which was a huge surprise. This journey has been about paying attention and making choices that actually work for me, not blindly following old rules or fads. And that's what I mean by intentional living, figuring out what works, sticking with it, and making those decisions every day. So let's set this up. As I said, I'm 51, and earlier this year I was at the heaviest I'd ever been. Not huge by most standards, 175 pounds, but for my frame, that's a lot. And I felt it in my joints, in my energy levels, and in my mind. On top of that, my blood pressure had been creeping up for years. Not crazy high all the time, but enough to notice. Then every now and then I'd get a spike into the high range, and that's when I really started to get concerned. I knew if I didn't change something now, it wasn't just going to fix itself. And I didn't want to be the guy who waited until he was on a handful of medications just to realize he should have made different choices earlier. That's when I started looking at my lifestyle, and food was the first place I knew I had to get intentional. Now, not long before I made changes, I had a routine doctor visit. Now, my blood pressure was a little high, and without much hesitation, my doc looked at me and said, "You need to cut back on your salt." She even brought up something called the salt diet. Stop adding large amounts of table salt. Now, I didn't argue. I just nodded like most of us do when someone in a white coat tells us how to fix our health. But in the back of my mind, it really just didn't sit right. Because I wasn't dumping salt on everything. I wasn't even salting much at all. And yet, things were not getting better. In fact, they were slowly getting worse. And that moment really stuck with me. It was one of the first times I started to really question whether the advice I'd been given for years was actually helping, or just repeating the same old script. Now that doctor visit, it really stuck with me. She told me to cut back on salt. Said it was the key to lowering my blood pressure. And honestly, I believed that for most of my life. Salt's been the villain for decades, so I didn't question it, not out loud anyway. But here's where I made a change. I started eating differently, mostly meat, eggs, butter, fat, and yeah, I added salt, more than I ever used to. And something unexpected happened. My blood pressure started to go down, not up. That's when I realized this doesn't line up. What I was doing flew in the face of what the doctors had told me. So I started digging, and what I found blew my mind. Everything I'd been told, the low salt advice, the fear of fat, the whole food pyramid, it was built around people eating processed, high-carb diets. But when you strip all of that out, when you go low carb or carnivore, your body works differently. You actually need salt, not less, but more. And suddenly the pieces started to fall into place. So after that, when I started feeling better, losing weight, and seeing my blood pressure improved while eating more salt, I realized something had to give. Because what my doctor said and what my body was showing me couldn't both be right. That's when I discovered that the standard low salt advice, like the salt diet, is built for people on high carb, high processed food diets where blood sugar and insulin are constantly spiking. In that world, yes, salt can add fuel to the fire. But when you go low carb or carnivore, the rules completely change. Without carbs, insulin drops and your kidneys flush out sodium. That's why so many people feel weak, dizzy, or dehydrated at first. It's not the meat, it's the missing salt and electrolytes. So while traditional medicine tells you to cut salt, the carnivore community tells you to add it 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams per day sometimes. Why? Because in a low-carb state, your body isn't holding on to sodium in the same way. You need to replenish it just to function well. And what's really crazy, a lot of us, myself included, see blood pressure normalize with more salt, not less. It turns out maybe the problem isn't salt. Maybe it's the sugar, the carbs, the processed junk that we've been fed for years. So yeah, these two views, they're completely opposed. One says salt is dangerous, the other says salt is necessary. And I'm telling you from experience, there's more to this than we've been led to believe. So what happened after I made these changes? After adding salt, cutting carbs, and focusing on real food, first, my blood pressure started coming down. Not just a little, but steadily. The spikes that used to scare me became fewer and farther between. My energy improved too. No more dragging through the afternoon or feeling foggy in the mornings. I actually woke up feeling ready to go. And the weight? I dropped about 15 pounds without even trying too hard. But more than that, the way I felt in my body changed. Less inflammation, less joint pain, better sleep. That's when it really hit me. This isn't just about numbers on a page or some diet trend. This is about taking control of how I feel every single day. Now, it's not perfect. I still have cravings sometimes, and I still slip up, but those intentional choices day after day are adding up. And that's the real momentum shift. For me, this journey has been about learning to listen, really listen to my body and make choices on purpose. I've had to unlearn a lot of what I thought was true about food, salt, and health. It wasn't easy, and I'm still not perfect. But every time I choose to eat in a way that supports how I want to feel, whether that's adding salt or skipping that sugary snack, I'm practicing intention. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. And building those intentional choices into habits is where the magic really happens. Habits don't form overnight. They're built day by day, choice by choice. So if you're listening and feeling overwhelmed, just start small. Maybe it's swapping out one sugary snack for something real. Maybe it's paying attention to how your body feels after a meal. Maybe it's just taking a moment to be aware before you eat. Those little moments add up because health isn't a finish line, it's a lifelong journey. And intentional choices are the fuel that keeps us moving forward. So here's the takeaway. Your health isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you create day by day, choice by choice. It's about being intentional, not perfect. It's about learning, adjusting, and staying curious about what works for your body. If you're on your own journey, remember, every small step counts. Whether you're cutting carbs, adding salt, or just paying attention to what you eat, you're making progress. And that's what momentum shift is all about, making something happen. So keep moving forward, keep choosing what works best for you, and I'll be right here figuring it out alongside with you. Now go make something happen.